Ruben Owens is going to be running back one for the Aggies this season.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by our wonderful friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. I just put $20 on the Aggies to win the College World Series. I recommend you do the same. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, I wanted to talk about this a little bit yesterday and never got to it. So I thought, heck, we'll have this be the show today. You know, I've seen some interesting opinions. I just read an article from the Houston Chronicle, and they had some concerns about the depth of the running back room. And I disagree because I think that this running back room is stacked with Ruben Owens set to take a leap forward in the right direction. 5 stars always take that second-year leap. It's just what happens. I think, we saw it with Walt last year. He took a step in the right direction. You're going to see it happen this year with Ruben Owens. I think he's got a great season ahead of him. Just things I've heard, things I've seen, stuff I saw in the spring game. He's explosive. If this offensive line can be better this season, which it's a conversation that, of course, we've had many times here on the show, but for another day, that'll help. But he's just so explosive and shifty. I think you're going to see him have a good year. Last season, there were times where the yards per carry and he wasn't efficient, and you kind of went, ooh, should we be concerned? And, obviously I would have loved to have seen him break onto the scene more than he did last year. But you still saw the flashes. If you see the flashes, you go, okay, he can do it. He's just got to start doing it more often. And I think this year you're going to see him do it more often when it comes to explosive plays through the air, on the ground. So, and this is interesting. So those are my thoughts on Ruben Owens, and we'll keep discussing him. But I think, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this in the YouTube comments. To me, I wrote down chalk for the running back room for, I made like a depth chart, and then I switched up mine. So I think chalk would be LeVeon Moss, Ruben Owens, Amari Daniels, EJ Smith. I think that would be chalk. Mine is the same thing. You just flop Ruben Owens and LeVeon Moss. And now listen, I do think that you're going to have 2 guys be the guys. What I'm curious of, let's say it's Ruben Owens and LeVeon Moss. What do the roles for Amari Daniels and EJ Smith look like? One thing I didn't hear a lot of talk about was EJ Smith. We saw him in the spring game, looked okay. And if y'all remember right, as you everydayers at Locked On Aggies here know, I talked to our Locked On College Football host, Spencer McLaughlin, and he told me, hey, I think EJ Smith in the right system can be a good player. Does he ever get his time to shine? Last year at Stanford, he caught the ball, he ran the ball, he did some good stuff. And now, is he better than the 3 guys ahead of him? It's be tough to talk me into that. So, point of this conversation is, in the article about the Houston Chronicle, they were talking about their depth concerns, and I'm going, you got 4 running backs, you got 4 dudes, and I get that some other schools might have 5. Like if the conversation is, hey, we want to go get 1 more running back in the portal, I'm not going to yell at anybody. Y'all know my thoughts on the portal. Depth is great. Go get more. I'm not going to be upset with you for continuing to go get more depth in the portal. And I think you could see it happen. I've seen they've reached out to some running backs. What's going to happen? We'll see. I don't know. And I talked about this yesterday. It's kind of been a little quiet on the portal front. We haven't heard much lately, which I was expecting a couple more additions. If there aren't any additions come Monday, we'll have to have a conversation. You have to assume something's going to happen on the weekend, and then we'll have to, hey, are we just content with what we got type of conversation. But I like LeVeon Moss a lot as well, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we aren't talking about him enough. Good player. He in and out of the lineup a little bit last year, a little banged up at times, but he is a really good football player. Man, my nose is itchy. Really good football player. And he's a running back with a ton of upside. I mean, talented guy. Don't forget, it's not like this guy was some random dude. He's a talented running back. And I think that you could have a two-headed monster of Ruben Owens and LeVeon Moss. So I want to pull up, and it was funny, I didn't even think about doing this before I clicked record. Let's pull up Kansas State's numbers last year and look at running back snaps and how many guys got snaps. So, okay, the starting running back last year for the Wildcats, let's see, DJ Giddens had 223 carries. Goodness gracious. What is that? How many games did they play? 40? That is absurd. I got to do the math on that. But they had, basically it was two running backs. It was Giddens and then Trayshawn Ward. Those were the two guys. And Trayshawn Ward had 124 carries. Let me look up other SEC. How many carries did Judkins have last season? I mean oh wow. Oh goodness. Never mind. Judkins had 271 carries. I am off on this. How many did? This is interesting to me. I wonder how many our guys had last year. Amari Daniels had 105. LeVeon Moss had 96. Ruben Owens had 101. So it was pretty spread out between those three guys. And then anybody else have any? Bailey had 20. It was really it. So point here is, and the reason I wanted to look up that Kansas State stuff is it looks like they had two guys. Will they have two guys this year? And once again, I mean, you saw it there. Amari Daniels was the leading rusher last year when it came to yards and carries. You can't count him out. And it's a good problem to have. We're actually getting ready to discuss more of good problems to have here in a minute on the show based on a list from On3. That's kind of similar to this. Having four running backs who I think can play is a very good problem to have. And that is the problem the Aggies have. They have a lot of really good running backs. But I just have a feeling, and listen, I've been wrong before. I'm willing to be wrong again. I have a feeling that Ruben Owens and LeVeon Moss are going to separate themselves as the guys in this backfield. You'll see Amari Daniels some, but I don't think you're going to see him as much as you saw him last year. And I think you're going to see these two, Moss and Owens, a lot more than you saw Daniels or than you saw them last year. So that's my thoughts on this running back room. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on the depth chart. Am I off? Am I right? Do you think maybe does EJ Smith jump Amari Daniels? Any crazy takes on the running back room and the depth there? I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts. But I just think Ruben Owens is showing the flashes of, hey, I am getting ready to explode onto the scene. So I think he's got a really good year in front of him. I think that is he going to be an 1,000-yard rusher? I think that one of these guys, whether it's Moss or Owens, one of those guys is going to be an 1,000-yard rusher. I think it's going to be Owens. I bet there's going to be some in the comments that say it's going to be Moss. And it's a really fun conversation to have because I can lean either way on this. I mean, really, you can go either way, and I'm not going to yell at anybody about it. So when I break this down, I'm excited about this position group. Hopefully, the offensive line is going to be able to create space for these guys because if you give these guys space, they are going to do damage. They really are. So you give them space, you give them some creases to sneak through and get upfield. This running back room can be good. You could have a unit where one goes for 1,100 yards, one goes for 500. You could have a really good rushing attack. So I'm anxious to see what this unit looks like when we get to the season. That's where I think we're going to be, but it's going to be really interesting to see what it ends up being. So once again, let me know in the YouTube comments y'all's thoughts on the running back room, who's going to end up as the starter, who's going to end up as the backup, and then how much do you see the other guys? Is it a three-headed monster, two-headed monster, four-headed monster? How do you see this room breaking down? Let me know y'all's thoughts on that in the YouTube comments. I'm really anxious to hear what y'all have to say. We're going to talk a little bit about how good Texas A&M's quarterback room is, and some other national publications agree. We're going to have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But I got to tell you about our friends over at Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there is just so much good stuff going on in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their building or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure and a robot machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So we're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback room, and this is interesting. So On3 put out their list of the top 10 best quarterback rooms in college football. So let's go through the list. Is Texas A&M going to be on there? Take a guess. Pause, leave your guess in the comments. I love doing this. It's funny. Pause, leave your thoughts in the comments. Here we go. Yes or no? Then and that, Jeopardy noise. Boom, we're back. Number 1, Texas. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Oregon. Number 4, Georgia. Number 5, Alabama. Number 6, Notre Dame. Number 7, Ole Miss. Number 8, LSU. Number 9, Florida. And number 10, Texas A&M. So, according to On3, the Aggies have a top 10 quarterback room in college football. And if you're an everydayer here at Locked On Aggies, you know that I fully agree with that. This quarterback room, top to bottom, is full of special players. Not a lot of schools have the luxury of having so many quarterbacks on your team. I mean, last year's quarterback room, if you really break it down, was insanely good because you had the guys you have now plus Max Johnson. And Max Johnson was a really serviceable backup quarterback. Good luck to him at North Carolina. I haven't heard how he's doing, but best of luck to Max and his brother, Jake. So haven't heard anything about them. No updates. So should the Aggies quarterback room be a little higher on this list? I mean, here's the issue with Texas A&M's quarterback room. You've got 3 guys who you watch the film and you go, man, these 3 guys are incredible. And then you look at the stats and you go, man, all 3 of them have not played a lot of college football. Connor Bigman's been in about, 9 games over 2 years because of injuries to others, injuries to him. Henderson, a little bit of football at his previous stop. Whatever it was, 4 games last year for the Aggies before he went down with his injury. And then Marcel Reed, literally just the bowl game. But if you turn on the film from the games these guys play, you go, man, this Texas A&M quarterback room is full of absolute monsters. And it's true. I mean, you can't look at this room and not think that. So, and I've said it time and time again, you have 3 quarterbacks who could start at a lot of schools. Texas A&M has had the unfortunate reality of seeing their quarterback go down, their starting quarterback go down year after year after year after year, it feels like. And knowing that reality, and it's kind of like betting on a football game where you're like, oh, the team that wears the red jersey loses 9 times out of 10 on this day of the year. And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's what Texas A&M quarterbacks getting hurt. It can't, at some point it's not something that's just always going to happen. It can't be. And so at some point you're going to see a quarterback stay healthy the whole year. I'd love to see that be the reality for Connor Rueben. But it wasn't last year. And having depth, I'm sure, you every day here at Locked On Aggies go, man, here goes Andrew. He said the word depth. Everybody plug your ears for 10 seconds. But seriously, I mean, it's the most important thing when it comes to a college football roster. If you don't have backups who can hold down the fort, if a player goes down with injury, you're not going to be a very good football team. That's just the reality here. So knowing that if Connor Wigman goes down, you have two quarterbacks who are really good, who can play high-quality snaps, who can get the ball to open receivers. Both of them can run the ball. Connor Wigman can run the ball, assuming he's going to be healthy and good to go for the start of the season. I like the way this quarterback room has worked its way out. You can risk an injury, and I think then Henderson or Reed, whoever ends up being QB2, is a really good player. Really good player. And not a lot of schools have that luxury. Even in the SEC. I mean, look at some schools like Vandy, Kentucky. Like Kentucky, for example. I know I have some buddies, in the Kentucky market. And if their starting quarterback goes down, what are they going to do? It's like they're in trouble. They would donate money they would pay millions of dollars in NIL money to get one of these two backup quarterbacks. And in all honesty, that one of them would probably be their starter, whether it be Henderson or Reed. And I bring that up because it's a great example. They don't have the depth Texas A&M does. So I don't think people realize how important it is to have that. If you don't have that depth, you are putting yourself in a very bad spot if a player gets banged up. You are an injury away from your season being over. And with Texas A&M, and I mean, this is another thing that could be a long conversation, but I think Connor Wigman's the best quarterback, and yes, I do think there's a drop-off if he were to get banged up. My point is that drop-off is much smaller than it would be for other schools. So, this is a high honor for really Henderson and Reed. Because, of course, they're saying, hey, Connor Wigman's a good player, but it shows you this conversation is more about depth than anything else. And they're saying, hey, the Aggies have a ton of depth at quarterback, and they do. So, I mean, the schools on this list for Texas, it's really because you got Arch there. Ohio State, I know they got, Howard, Coach Klein's old quarterback, and then I don't know much about the backup there because didn't the McCord kid, the kid that started last year, left? Oregon, I'll be honest with you, who transferred over to Oregon? They must have gotten a transfer because Bo Nix is gone. Point is, I do the SEC. I don't do any of these other schools, but Georgia, we know what you got there. Bama, we know what you got there. Ole Miss has an incredible quarterback room. LSU has a really, really good quarterback room, a really high upside quarterback room. So, and then, Florida with that Lagway kid, they have a solid quarterback room. So I think Texas A&M is ranked in a fair spot on this list. I think you could have them a spot or two higher, I think. But in all honesty, this is one of those types of lists where you're just happy you're there. I think that the Aggies they feel good that they're listed here. There's a train going by my house right now, and I've lived here for about 10 months. We're getting ready to move into a new house, and I've never heard a train come by ever. That was really crazy. That's what was throwing me off. I was like, what is that? I was like, someone's coming in here to try and beat me or something. But so feel good about this quarterback room, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. I think Coach Klein goes to sleep every night, and he just kind of goes, before he goes to bed going, man, I have a really good quarterback room, and it's a great feeling. I got 3 guys who can play the position at a high level. I've got a genuine quarterback competition. Not every quarterback coach, offensive coordinator in the SEC or college football can say what Coach Klein can say about his quarterback room. So really good to see that. Let me know in the YouTube comments, how do y'all feel about the quarterback room? Do y'all feel as good as I do? Am I overhyping it? I don't think I am, and I don't think On3 is either. I think this room is really just going to be that good. We're going to talk a little bit about the baseball team's postseason projections. D1 Baseball put out their new projections for regionals. So Where are the Aggies? Where are they going? Obviously, not very far. We'll talk about their draw coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. I am going to a baseball game on Saturday. And Andrew, where'd you get your ticket? You already know where I got my ticket. I got it on Game Time. The only place anybody should ever purchase a ticket. I love that they show you what your seat looks like. I automatically know where I'm going to be sitting, what it's going to look like. And every time I get to the venue, it looks exactly like that. And once again, this isn't just tickets to sporting events. We're also talking about comedy. We're talking about concerts. I'm going to see a country music concert with my dad. We're going to go see Zach Bryan in Nashville. It's going to be fun. We're also going to go see the Pixies. Anybody, they're a little bit older band, any Pixies fans, shout out to the Pixies fans. I've gotten into them. My dad loves them. We're going to go see them for his birthday. That's going to be his birthday present. Don't tell him. But, well, hopefully, Dad don't listen today. But love Game Time. You got to check it out. I'll never buy a ticket anywhere else. Best prices. Love the way the app works, being able to see your seat. You got to check this app out because I promise you'll never use anything else to buy a ticket if you do. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, the baseball team from D1 Baseball got their projection for where they're going to be traveling for the regional. And, of course, that is to their home ballpark because they're the number one overall seed in this because Texas A&M is the best baseball team in college baseball. I might be – no. You know what? As I said, in the very beginning of the show, I put $20 on the Aggies to win the national championship, and I feel good about it. And I think y'all should join me, and we should all write it out together. We can be in pain together. We can be excited together. But so their regional – the 2 seed in Texas A&M's regional at home is Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, and then the 3 seed is Lamar. The 4 seed is Omaha. So it sounds like the first step to Omaha for the Aggies is going to be to beat Omaha if this is the draw that they end up getting. And then you say, well, Andrew, don't take it too far. Well, I'm gonna. If the Aggies get out of their regional, which with that draw, I would feel really, 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 really good about them doing that, they will play the winner of this bracket. Oklahoma, 1 seed, Nebraska, 2 seed, Louisiana Tech, 3 seed, Wright State, 4 seed. So you have to assume that it's going to be Nebraska or Oklahoma, and we've already seen what Texas A&M does to Nebraska in postseason play this year, so bring that on. But you control your own. You aren't going to have to leave your dorm room to get to Omaha until you go to Omaha. That's how serious this is for this ball club. And that's a really good thing to know that, okay, if we finish out strong, it's 3 more series. You have 3 more series. If you just, I mean, you could even honestly, you could lose one. You could go, what would that be? 9 games. If you won 2, you went 2-1, 2-1, 4, 5. You went 5-4 in these games. If you'd finish SEC play 20-10, you're going to be hosting a regional and you're going to be hosting a super if you win your regional. So I believe unless something catastrophic happens and the Aggies go like 2-7 in their final 9 games, they're going to host, of course, a regional. They could probably go 0-9 and host a regional. Well, now that, that probably is a little much, but still. And then a super, if you just take care of business, you win 2 of these 3 series, you sweep 1, win 1, and lose 1, whatever, you're going to be okay. You've got some tough series left. You still got Arkansas. You still got to go to LSU. And I know LSU hasn't had the year that many thought they would, but it's still going to play at the box, and that's not somewhere I want to play. Interestingly enough, there are 5 SEC teams slated to host a regional, and D1 Baseball's most recent update to the field of 64. So that's interesting. And best conference in baseball is the SEC, and it's not even relatively close. And this Texas A&M baseball team can win a national championship. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really do appreciate it. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today. Also, we're going to do a little mailbag tomorrow. I've already got a couple questions that have been DM'd to me on Twitter, but leave some questions in the YouTube comments. Send them to me on Twitter. Appreciate that. We'll have that segment on Friday. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of the day today, like I said, and we will see you tomorrow.